The ScaleUp Journey Part 1. If you're a business owner manager of a business between 2 and 30 employees and you're watching this video, then you're probably looking for some advice with scaling a business. You've no doubt been running a business for a few years and are enjoying a certain level of success, but maybe you're beginning to feel that things are a little out of control. You might even be feeling overwhelmed, not sure if you're doing things right. You may have got where you are without even realizing quite how you got there and are wondering, how do you manage the next steps and how do you keep control of things? You may be increasingly coming across challenges managing team stress or cash flow pressures, and perhaps you also have half an eye on wanting to make sure you're building a valuable business, the kind of business that someone might want to buy at some point. And you may even be wondering if your business is in fact scalable. Scaling a business is not easy, and by now you probably realize that there isn't one simple tip or magic bullet that is suddenly going to deliver phenomenal success. And the stats prove it. Half of startups fail within 5 years, 2/3 within 10, and of all businesses, 99.3% remain with less than 50 employees, and in fact nearly 96% remain with less than 10 employees. In our experience of working with several hundred business owners like you over the last few years, there are two things that separate out those that successfully scale from those that do not. Firstly, working to a proven system and strategies to scale and build value, including an understanding of the scale-up journey and the difference from linear growth. In other words, properly planning and executing scaling up and not just drifting into growth. Secondly, understanding and harnessing the power of peer-to-peer working monthly with a small group of like-minded business owners that act as a sounding board of their peers who can share their experiences and help to overcome barriers to scaling up along the way, as well as keeping each other accountable to the key things that will scale their business and avoid getting distracted. So let's take a look at what we mean by the scale-up journey. Scaling up is a series of stepping stones or staging posts, not a straight line or even a wiggly line of growth. The first one of these, if you think about it, the first stepping stone is at 1 employee, just us. The second is typically 3 to 5 employees, the third 8 to 12, then 20 to 25, 40 to 60, 250 to 600, etc. and so on. If you prefer to think about it in revenue terms, then broadly speaking, we're looking at up to around 100k, 500,000, 1 million, 2 to 2.5 million, 5 million, 25 to 60 million, etc. Now, why these numbers? Well, basically it's related to team sizes and the number of teams. So let's look at it in a little bit more detail. The first step is basically you on your own. We can build a great little business, perhaps a consulting type model, nicely profitable, and we can climb that ladder of success for the one-person business, and that is great. But it is different. It is a different kind of business from the 3 to 5 employee business. The success ladder for a 3 to 5 business is different. It is a different ladder. We've got to manage a little more complexity in terms of communication. We've got to make sure that we have the right business model that enables us to pay decent salaries. And it's no longer okay to have good and bad months where we could cope taking less out 1 month, but we can't ask our staff to do that. Not to mention that we've got now to face the challenge of recruiting and managing staff. So we've begun the transition from owning a job, and hopefully a well-paid one at that, to owning a real business. The 3 to 5 employee staging post is a great place to be, and we've now got a team that is big enough to benefit from collaborative thinking, as well as 3 to 5 people actively building the business rather than one person trying to do everything. But still, we're small enough for it not to be too hard to manage and control. But we can't just step from the 1-person ladder to the 3 to 5-person ladder at the same level. We have to join at a lower rung, at a lower level. And if you think about it, we're going to have to invest in the transition, even if it is just in terms of paying additional staff, but we're probably also going to have to think more about making our lead generation activities more consistent. So we're going to have a dip or a valley before we're able to start to climb up the new ladder. And these valleys are sometimes referred to as the valleys of death, because if we get it wrong, we can either languish for ages in a valley where we're busy but struggling to keep control and probably not earning healthy profits. We're wondering where the cash is going, and we might slip back to the previous ladder, or we might even kill the business altogether. And this is why most businesses do not get to the 3 to 5 staging post. If they try, many end up taking on an employee, getting it wrong, or the employee leaves, and then we're back where we started. So this is perhaps the most obvious or easy to understand transition, but the same happens throughout this scale-up journey. The ladder for the 8 to 12 business is different from the 3 to 5 ladder. Likewise, the 20 to 25 success ladder is different again, and so on. Each time there is a valley of death in between, and we need to recognize this, and we need to plan the transition from one ladder to the next. We need to recognize where we are and to plan for what the business will look like and what the business will need at the next staging post. And we need to think about what needs to happen on the way to build and climb that ladder, including how long do we expect it to take. For example, is it our 3-year plan or perhaps 5-year, or is it shorter or longer? And how much cash will we need to get us through that valley of death? And can we manage the investment from cash flow, for example, or do we need to access additional finance? The Scale Up Journey Part 1.